This is the Final Word Women's Ashes Daily, day 2 of the one and only test match from Trent Bridge. Jeff Lemon and Bharat Sundaresan with you. The show is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. And I have to tell you all about the entire day's play in the space of 30 seconds. Let's say Australia were 328 for 7 when they resumed today, and Annabel Sutherland went on to her first test century. Lana King whacked a few, got out, and then Kim Garth stayed around for a long period of time. After lunch, 137 not out. Sutherland, by the time they got through Darcy Brown, Australia made 473, and then England went gangbusters in response. 218 for 2 at the close. Tammy Beaumont's made 100. She's 100 not out, and that Siva Brunt's still there on 41, and Heather Knight made a 50. So they're going very quickly. That was 30 seconds. That got most of it. It's one of those days where the numbers, I just couldn't get the numbers to stay in my head. But it was a big day for two players, for Sutherland and for Beaumont, on a personal level.
But your 30-second summary was like Nat Siva Brunt and what she did in the last half an hour. She really did set this Trent Bridge crowd alight. I was sitting in the crowd as always. That seems to be my thing here. And they were rolling. They were roaring, and there were these two lovely old ladies sitting next to me till that point were munching on their biscuits, having their tea, having a great time, laughing away with whatever BBC TMS commentary they were listening to, till Siva Brunt started hitting those boundaries. And they were hooting and hollering. One of them was going, woo, 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 for each ball, and that led to the Tammy Beaumont century moment as well. With 1 over to go of the last ball of the penultimate over of the day, she plays another expansive shot, and there she is. What an innings it was. But we'll come to Tammy Beaumont. Before that was the coming of age of Annabel Sutherland. So many things about her cricket get compared to Elise Perry, and I've seen them in the last couple of years. Elise Perry has taken her under her wings. I saw a beautiful picture of them from, I think, one of the T20 World Cups, where Elise Perry sat with her arm around a much younger Annabel Sutherland. And there's also this cute picture of a baby Annabel Sutherland receiving a prize or something from a pretty young-looking Meg Lanning. So that must have been from 10, 15 years ago. But what a talent. We spoke about how good she is on the eye when she bats. Classy batter, crisp with her timing, and she just continued on. It was a pretty effortless march to her century today after she was unbeaten yesterday.
This is the interesting bit, right? Like there were some nice shots in there, but it wasn't like a player who was dominating, who looked like they were dominating, up until the point when she gets close to 100, just before the 100, and then just afterwards she hits 4 boundaries in 9 balls, and then she starts going after Sophie Eccleston, hits her for a big 6 when she's batting with the 11, Darcy Brown. But until that point, I mean, the partnership that she put on with Kim Garth was worth 95, and Kim Garth made 22. And batted really slowly. I mean, at one stage when they're coming up to the lunch break, Kim Garth is 14 off 56 balls at lunch, and has just been hanging out, helping out, and Sutherland didn't seem to have the foot down, but was still scoring prolifically.
That just tells you about her all-round game, because she has shots to the offside, onside, back foot, front foot, but also another thing she does have, much like Perry, is the ability to rotate the strike. And you're right, Kim Garth was at one point, I think, 2 runs when the partnership had already gone to 40. So she was dominating the innings without really looking very dominating, if that makes sense. And Sophie Eccleston was just wheeling away, and it felt like she bowled 172 overs. She didn't, but felt like a lot. But she was picking off the seamers, any error in length. Sutherland was all over it, it felt like she could have continued batting if, say, Australia hadn't lost those 2 wickets. And Australia seemed happy for her to keep batting as well. They've recognized this as being a really flat pitch, and we saw that when England batted as well. So they wanted as many runs as they could get. Annabel Sutherland starring with the bat, and then of course she came back and did something with the ball as well.
A little bit later on, Lauren Bell did something with the ball too. The ball that she bowled to dismiss Lana King. I mean, this looked like a really nice batting pitch for the most part, and the only thing you could get as a bowler, there's decent bounce from this pitch, but you could get movement through the air. And Bell manages to bowl. She bowls the Shikapande ball. She bowls the wide outside, the off stump, that swings in so far that you think it must have taken an inside edge onto the stumps, but it misses the inside edge and crashes into middle.
It's like the Moeen Ali ball to Cameron Green last week, just that this was a seamer bowling and not an off spinner. But that's how wide the gap was between bat and pad. And purely produced by the prodigious movement that she got in the air. We spoke about her delivery last evening, late in the day, to get the court behind. This was even better. And Alana King, who had batted pretty decently till that point. Alana King's this feisty batter, right? She just wants to hit every ball she faces.
She whacks every
She
ball.
just
She likes to hit the ball as hard as possible.
She does, and she tried to hit this one as hard as she could, but big gap. It just came in so far. It was like not boomerang swing, but close to boomerang swing. And you're right. I also was convinced it was an inside edge, but it took me a couple of looks to say, "Wow, no, she's clean bowled."
Okay, boomerang, if we could use that. So the partnerships, 95 that she puts on with Garth, 77 with Ash Gardner, 47 with King, and 16 with Darcy Brown. Annabel Sutherland adds 238 for the last 4 wickets, making 137 not out. There have been 10 Australians now. She's the 10th to make a Test century from number 8. And so there've been one other woman and 8 men who've done it before. And she's not an 8. She doesn't belong at 8 in terms of her ability. We've seen her bat 3 in the one-day team in her first series and so on. But it's the depth of this Australian lineup that they can bat to 8 and they can probably have 8 bowl. Well, they bat to 10 really. I mean, Garth would be batting top 6 in most other teams in the world.
And the position she walked out to bat in, 6 for 238, we spoke about yesterday, which was a pretty precarious position on a pitch like this, where we've seen England dominate with the bat as well. So Australia were in a spot of bother when she walks out to bat and joins Elise Perry. And then to join Ash Gardner, I should say. So she started off pretty briskly even last evening, and that was a crucial partnership between Gardner and Sutherland, but then she just took over this morning. It's a great story as well, right? I mean, her father obviously played a huge role behind the scenes in Australian cricket for a long time, and
often in front of the scenes as well.
Pretty much, yeah, especially during one tour of South Africa. And her brother Will, who's had a really good Sheffield Shield season. I saw him make his maiden first-class century at the Karen Rolton Oval at the start of the last summer.
But ended up captaining Victoria by the end of the season.
He did. I mean, he takes wickets with the ball. He's got that presence just like his sister does. And I remember him after he made that 100. He said, "Yeah, I mean, I've not been taking tips from my sister, but like I'm definitely getting inspired by her performances because she had such a great start to the Australian summer." And also lovely stories about them having accompanied their father on men's tours and women's tours and playing cricket in the background. When a young Elise Perry was making her waves as an international cricketer in her youthful days, there was baby Annabel at the back, and now they're playing together and being spoken of in the same breath.
When Elise Perry debuted in 2007, Annabel Sutherland was 5 years old.
There you go, yeah. And I think it is Elise Perry who always talks about how she remembers Annabel and Will in the back, in the dressing room, wherever they could find space, just keep playing cricket. And it is a lovely story. We constantly speak about Jimmy Anderson and his longevity, but Perry's been around so long as well. And she still looks as fit as she always has. But it's wonderful to see her inspire not just the next generation. I think you would think Annabel is 2 generations apart from Perry, and they're still, and you could even see while Annabel Sutherland's bowling, Perry's always at mid-off, putting an arm around her, just having a quick word to her. And when that opening partnership was just beginning to take hold, it was Annabel Sutherland who in her first over bowls a maiden, and then of the last ball, becomes a wicket maiden because she takes a wicket of the last ball. But yeah, just teases her outside off them and gets it out.
Yeah, so Emma Lamb edges to slip. Jonathan takes the catch there. Not exactly early, they're 10 overs in at that stage. And then Heather Knight and Tammy Beaumont just say, you know what, this pitch is good for batting, we're going to make the most of it. And I thought Australia bowled really poorly through that period of play. Like there were some good deliveries, but there was a lot of loose stuff. There were full tosses. Sutherland, as she got deeper into a spell, bowled 4 or 5 full tosses that got hit to the boundary. Alana King bowled a stack of full tosses and down the leg side. They were really rusty. Perry came on to try 1 over before the break and was swinging most of them down the leg side. They couldn't sort of control the movement in the air, and there were just a lot of freebies. And credit to Knight and Beaumont because they were positive enough to cash in every time they had an opportunity. They weren't being safety first and trying to be careful. They were taking it on.
And they were scoring in nearly 4 and over again, like yesterday. And Tammy Beaumont in particular picked off any width. She's a wonderful batter with the horizontal bat shots in particular. She can drive the ball as well. But there was a lot of width on offer. Alana King was struggling with her control. There were a few full tosses. One that I think Beaumont smashed into Phoebe Litchfield's helmet and she needed a concussion test. But she kept missing her length. She bowled a few really good deliveries. But overall, yeah, they just looked like I think they have coming off a 3-day game, aren't they?
Rusty.
Yeah, but they looked extremely rusty. And Darcy Brown bowled a couple of good sharp in-swingers to start with, but there were boundary balls that she bowled as well, really full. And they were flowing. Knight and Beaumont were flowing, and at that point, you felt, oof, where's that next wicket going to come from?
Well, it comes from Ash Gardner, who bowls a lovely delivery, holds the line, goes on with the arm, the off spinner, and takes the little edge, just draws Heather Knight forward, that perfect length, takes the edge through to the keeper. Knight's out for 57, and that brings Nat to the front to the middle, and she just put the foot down even further with Tammy Beaumont as well, who, as you say, was particularly anything short. She was crushing the pull shot, going back and really pulling with power. And width outside the off stump, and then Siva Brunt late in the day just says pretty much everything's got to go. Hit 3 boundaries in an over at one point, was walloping Gardner. Jess Jonathan barely bowled. I thought that was odd. She bowled 2 overs by the close, and she's your control operator, even if it is relatively early in a test match. I was surprised they didn't look to her more.
And Talia McGrath as well, unless she's carrying an injury that I'm not aware of. And Jess Jonathan bowled the last 2 overs, and she was literally brought on only when Siva Brunt started bashing everyone else up. And just on Siva Brunt as well. She went for big money in the WPL auctions, and you can just see she's got that aura around her, right? The moment she walked out to bat, you could see there was excitement building around the ground. Yes, they were disappointed to see Captain Heather Knight get out at that stage when she looked good for another Ashes Test 100. But Siva Brunt's arrival just brought that energy up, and she kept up that energy. For 3 boundaries on the same over from King late in the day. Yeah. She went after Gardner, she slog swept her, and Jonathan was brought on really to control the Siva Brunt innings. And she did a fair job in the 2 overs she bowled. But yeah, I mean, Healy kept going back to her first 3 bowlers. Garth bowled a long spell, or 3 long spells, bowled I think 14, 15 overs. Gave her some sort of control, went at 3 and over, or just under 3 and over. But a lot of the others were quite expensive. But yeah, Siva Brunt looks hungry for more.
Tammy Beaumont late in the day reaches her century, so 2 raises of the bat that we saw today. She's 100 not out and will resume tomorrow. A couple of sleepy moments from the Australians. One where Gardner switches from around the wicket to over the wicket. Jess Jonathan at slip doesn't change her position, and Healy, the keeper, doesn't tell her to change her position from a bit wider to a bit narrower. The edge goes between the keeper and slip, and I mean, Jonathan was almost to the second slip at that point. Had she been a conventional first, she would have taken that, well, been in a position to take that catch easily. So that was one where they missed out. And the other one off the boot, Tammy Beaumont coming forward to Alana King, squeezes the ball down into her boot, pops up to short leg. Now the Australians appeal, it's given not out, but well, you tell me, you're the umpire in this case. Yeah, I thought it shouldn't have been on the Australians to review that, because if an umpire is saying it's a bump ball, but the other team is asking them whether that's a dismissal, that's the umpire's job to send that upstairs, not the appealing team's job, because that is the purview of an umpire's review. Is that am I right or wrong?
You're very much on the money. It's very similar to a bump ball.
Well, it is. They're saying it was a bump ball.
Yeah, exactly.
But it came off the boot.
Yeah, I mean like a contentious catch, for example. Sure. The Cam Green one, we're not going back there. We're not going back to the Oval. No, I'm not anyway.
Never
again.
We'll never go to the Oval again.
Yeah, I know. Even last Test match of the Ashes, why don't we shift it here? Such a beautiful ground. But it's very similar. A bump ball of any kind. That is also kind of a bump ball when in the ball, you're not sure whether the fielder has taken it cleanly or it's off the bounce. And I was surprised that they didn't go to the third umpire. I mean, it is the umpire's call. But you're right, the umpires felt like they left it to the Australians to review it or not. And they looked a little confused as well. I've never seen that happen before. And even before DRS came into the picture, that generally did go to the third umpire in that case. And often we would see it would be an obvious bump ball and they would just move on. But to test something which seemed very close, because her bat and pad were so close to each other, was a little surprising.
So England 218 for 2, that leaves them 255 behind, but they've still got the 8 wickets in hand. They don't bat as deep as the Australians, but they've got a couple of players in great touch at the crease. That brings us to the final word, Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of Fame where we look at the moments that we enjoyed, the things that stood out to us. It's brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. I can tell you that there may be a smorgasbord of cricket happening, but there's also Major League Baseball happening in London over the weekend, which means if you want a baseball-themed weekend, you can go to the home run joint down at Westfield, home run house, and you can hit some balls into the stands. Have you ever gotten a baseball cage before?
No, I haven't. I should do that. Like, yeah, I'm going to London in a couple of days' time. I'm going to go and swing at a couple. Like, yeah, so it seems like fun, doesn't it? Like in cricket, at least you need a hand-eye. Here it's just eye and hands, not together. Or so it seems. I don't know. Like baseballers think they can play cricket. We always think we can play baseball. So I am going to go give a couple of swings. I don't know if they should bat lefty or righty, but we'll see.
We'll see. Okay, we'll work it out. What do you bat in cricket?
Lefty.
Left, okay. Well, maybe try both, see how they go. We could steal some of the bats from sixes and try cricket bats in the baseball cage, something like that. You can also go to Bat and Ball, which isn't the baseball place, but it is the place for ping pong and beer pong and darts, karaoke, all of the other sports. I'd love to see karaoke in the Olympics.
Yeah, well,
if we can have breakdancing
yeah,
and sports
it's coming,
final,
it's coming,
we can
yeah.
have karaoke. So, right, that is Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. Hall of Fame, I'm going to throw a stats nomination in there. Tammy Beaumont today becomes the second player after Heather Knight to make 100 in all three formats in women's cricket. Of course, most of the other players don't get the chance to do that because they don't get to play Test cricket. But it's a little surprising because Meg Lanning has made hundreds in one days and T20s, never made a Test 100. Elisa Healy's never made a Test 100. Beth Mooney's never made a Test 100. And Elise Perry's never made a T20 100. So all of the great Australians, none of them have the three formats, whereas two of the English players do.
Yeah, I think Elisa Healy's highest score in Test cricket is 54, which surprised me. The three tests that I've covered of hers, she hasn't made any runs against India on the Gold Coast, the last Ashes test, and this one.
Yeah, Lanning as well has 150, I think, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, good nomination. I have a couple. One is, generally, when you watch cricket around the world or cover cricket, you get to see one of these in a year or 2 years, which is basically an appeal for a run out at the non-striker's end where the ball is ricocheted off the bowler's hand and hit the stumps. We saw 3 before the lunch break today, which is amazing. All in the space of 50 minutes or 45 minutes. 3 of those, all 3 were not out, but for it to happen 3 imagine if like all 3 were out. It would have been quite the miracle. We're speaking about getting the bowler running out the non-striker end because they've left the crease, but this would have been quite incredible. That would be one. The other one was like this cute moment which I saw between 2 veterans, Alicia Healy and Heather Knight, which is when Heather Knight's pretty early in her innings, and she scampers across for a second run. It's the last ball of the over, drops her bat, and then she's in her crease. Alisa Healy's standing with the ball in her hand, and you could see Heather Knight saying, "I need to go get the bat." And Alisa Healy's like, "Well, I'm not getting rid of the ball. If you get out, I'm going to stump you." Like, I mean, it didn't go on for too long. It was like a nice little stalemate moment between those two.
I would also nominate, so Darcy Brown, the one player in the Australian 11 who doesn't have much of a qualification with the bat, but she did pull off an all-run 4.
Oh, yes.
The long chase out there, the dive, the tap back, all the work, the throw in, and they ran 4 anyway.
Sophie Dunkley, she had a tough run because she had the shin pads on. And every time she ran, you could see she was really pushing against it. And she made all the effort. She chased a lot of balls. She put the dive in. Unfortunately, I have one more nomination, though.
She's an awkward runner too, Dunkley.
Yeah.
She sort of looks like she's running through cement or something almost all the time.
I thought it's only because of the shin pads. You're right.
No, she's normally... Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Maybe it's just her. Like, she does look like she's always running into the wind, even on a still day. And that's what it feels like. My final nomination is the crowd. Man, I have fallen all over in love with the English crowds again. Their knowledge of cricket. And you can talk about baseball and exciting cricket and test cricket needs to be saved. What are they even talking about? The English crowd loves a maiden over, loves a good, like that all-run 4. They were cheering even though it was the opposition. Yeah. A good, like someone putting in a stop, a good throw from the boundary. All those old school chants, they are loving it.
And you had some guys yesterday saying, name 5
Oh, yes.
captains who were born in one country and captained another country. Like they're playing story time.
They are.
Pledge in the crowd.
They are. I really wanted, and I started speaking to them. They said, "Can you help me?" I said, "No, it's unprofessional. I'm wearing an accreditation card." I didn't know some of the answers, so I just bailed out. To be very honest, but they were at it even today. I mean, today I think they were talking about Hanif Mohammed and Basil D. Oliveira. I don't know what they were on about, but and there was this other guy who was talking about his first Test match that he ever saw, which is England versus the rest of the world, sometime in the early 70s or in the early 60s. He's talking about Colin Bland and Eddie Barlow and the legends of South African cricket before the break. And it's amazing. Their knowledge of cricket, their love for cricket, and the hooting and hollering for Nat Silver Brunt. I'll never forget it.
Both hooting and hollering in this economy. Yeah. My last one, as we mentioned, Annabel Sutherland, the unbeaten 100, and then taking a wicket first ball when she comes on. Sometimes it's just your day. Sometimes everything goes your way. That's enough from us. This has been the Final Word Women's Ashes Daily. It's brought to you by Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. If you like the show, if you want to help us do what we're doing, you can go to patreon.com/thefinalword. Or you can just tune in tomorrow, which will be day 3 from this Test match as it rolls along. Jeff Lemon and Bharat Sundaresan. Great to have your company. We'll see you next time.